I don't let my son go on the computer all the time. It's the same reason. It's like having, you don't want to see your mates on Twitter, you want to see them for real. You want to be with people. It's a natural state of being, and our work, you know, it's at the heart of everything we do, so I think it's the same.
Yeah, I think there's always been, you know, Dunbar's number, right, where even if you have 5,000 friends on Facebook, you'll only really necessarily connect or remember 140 of them. So we naturally have a threshold for throwing out stuff we don't necessarily want or need. And the physical world has, you know, I can catch up with someone by calling them up in a 5-minute conversation faster than texting them and faster than sending out direct messages, and that's just something I recognize. And I know as a person, as a human being, I don't think we're made to have our head plugged into the computer all day.
That's what, yeah. Well, so that's why we put our school, we put our students in a prison on an island. We just want them to stay there and communicate with each other.
For me, I mean, digital doesn't replace real life. It's about supporting it and extending it and making real life better. It's really not about kind of replacing it. And I think there are issues like you mentioned. And I think that's vital that we deal with them. But for me, it's certainly about supporting the kind of the life I lead every day. And I don't kind of spend my life online in an avataristic kind of sense.
What do you guys make of Avatar?
Paying for this room.
That's a very good question.
I haven't seen it.
So I took my studio to see it at the IMAX recently, and it was actually a really good feel-good movie. And I'm not really into feel-good movies, and I thought it was a massive spectacle. And I think there's a place for that kind of massive spectacle. And in a way, the 3D thing it was irrelevant. I don't think that's so important. I think some of the kind of visual imagery was amazing, you know. And it has been reported there's some people that are kind of considering committing suicide because the world's not beautiful anymore, and they can't get Pandora out of their heads.
I mean, the big thing about kind of the gimmicks, like the 3D at the moment, is, you know, the big thing. They wanted to have to do that, show you 3D, you know, and it's something that you can just imagine the kind of the amount of the volume of rubbish films which are going to be produced just to be in 3D. So actually finding a place for the particular technologies which is relevant is incredibly important, and suddenly people are starting to get that a lot more, which I think is very interesting.
I mean, there's a massive speed in terms of take up on technology. You know, stuff we show at 1.0 will be 2 years before sort of it got picked up further. Now it's probably 6 months or something, or even it's not. You know, we're even behind. You know, sometimes. And I think there's a danger of that kind of speed. Also, there's technology invented just for technology's sake, which is one kind of argument. But I think also you should play with technology, see what you can do. So even if you're playing with it, you might come up with a solution you just didn't know you could do that with. The Designers of the Year is on at the moment at the Design Museum, and I nominated a few things there, and one of it was called the iWriter, which is, there was a massive collaborative effort. It's built with open frameworks, and it's basically a pair of specs that's gone onto a graffiti writer who's lost all, he's basically, he can't move he can only move his eyes, and now he's learned how to tag again using his eyes and projectors. Now that sounds like that's just for graffiti. Well, it's an amazing piece of kind of medical invention, which is done by a group of 25 people who are, you know, geeks and coders and graffiti artists. And it's an incredible project, and I think that's really important that people do play with technology.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's a big challenge, and it's a question that lots of people have been asking about how to archive digital, because in a way you can archive something real. Like we could put chorus away in a box and it would just be a giant thing of pendulums and motors, and that wouldn't mean anything. So actually how you record it in non-digital settings is almost really important. How you record those stories, why books are still relevant. You know, making a sculpture that functions and has a life beyond whatever LED or power source in it is really, really important, because what happens if that breaks? It's something that you have to ask all the time. And the thing is, technology, just like how many phone chargers have you got in your drawer at home, it's thrown away all the time. So we have to face obsolescence in everything we create. And well, we'll see what happens to the campy in 50 years when we're dead.
Yeah,
still work.
It's a massive challenge, and you know, doing the V&A show, and you've got a whole conservation team there, which is amazing. they didn't know what to do with a lot of the exhibits in Decode. It's like, well, what do we make a note of? It's a piece of code. How do we, and then they're literally taking photographs of CPUs. It's like, no, don't worry about that. It can be, and it's like they have to do it because that's what they're built to do. But also I kind of like it, you don't talk about kind of how do you keep theatre alive. It's like you have to be there. I like that kind of ephemeral nature of some of the work. If you weren't there, you missed it. And sometimes that's nice. And if a work lasts 20 years, it lasts 20 years. And I think nowadays the art market kind of becoming interested in this area. And they're trying to sell this work. And obviously they're trying to sell it, but they know there's a limit to it, so they're trying to how to make it robust. I kind of like the fact that a piece of work will wear out. We wear out.
And I also think there's an illusion about how long the stuff we live with lasts, because I read when they announced that the London Eye was being kept because it was only supposed to last for 10 years, right? It's an architectural piece. This is something that was designed by serious people in serious offices. And they had planned for all the pieces to last, and all the bits and pieces to last for 80 years. And they've already been replaced twice so far in 10 years. So even architectural buildings aren't as sturdy as they could be and as long-lasting as we think they are. So all this work in which we're evolving, which is clearly looks a little bit fragile, or looks a little bit dependent. We are all living in, breathing and living pieces of stuff that lasts, some of it for a while, some of it for a lifetime, most of it not.
Look out the window, that building's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Can I just add something to that? Because the work that we do is very much architecturally based, and we do a lot of collaborations with architects. Some of the earlier work that we did, like the piece we did for Puerto Verona Hotel, and that's been in there for sort of about 6 years now. And and we expect that piece to be working in the next 20 years. As long as the hotel is still there, that piece will still be there. And we've got pieces of art that are public realm sculptures, which are actually going to be, we have to put lifetimes of at least 20 years on them, and they're still there. We do go and replace the parts, exactly. So you go and put new drivers in after 5 years, but the piece still looks the same. It doesn't change for people who are experiencing it. So these pieces can last for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. But even with talking about architectural structures in Japan and in China, there's buildings which are 700 or 800, 900 years old, but all the parts have been completely replaced. The actual building is actually very modern, but in essence it still has that same sacred nature to it. Something which is it may be a very Western thing, maybe a very modern kind of preoccupation with age or these
So age
things.
equals authenticity in some areas, and in digital it's like the newer it is, the more authentic it is. It's interesting.
Interesting one, yes please.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting question, because we dropped the kind of digital from 1.0's title, I think, after 3 years. But when we tour, people really wanted to put it in there, because it describes something which was new and shiny. The V&A show is called Digital Design Sensations. They wanted the word digital in there. So there is a kind of, there's a shorthand for people using it, but I think eventually, you don't say electric, do you? You don't. I think it is inherently redundant, but I think we're still kind of fetishizing over the technology in our age at the moment, and hopefully we'll get over it and lose it. It's like, why isn't it just called art? Why is it called digital art?
We started off as a CD-ROM project to create students to work on CD-ROMs. How old does that feel like? That was in '94. So technology changes, work changes. Digital revolutions happen. So
Yeah, I think it's a terminology that we're living with at the moment. It is shorthand. I think it will eventually feel as horrible as saying e-government, like e-anything, e-commerce, just feels so 90s. So eventually digital will be like, and I don't know how long that will take.